6.5%, was it? Is that what the current odds are of the Stanley Cup?
Well, and if you look at the round-by-round progression, the Stanley Cup favorite is the Vancouver Canucks.
What a time to be alive!
Talking you through every goalie controversy, scoring slump, and draft lottery bust, this is the C4 Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com. Here they are, the best starting lineup we could afford under the salary cap. Chris, Matt, Anna, and Adam.
Welcome to another episode of the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Anna and Chris. I'm Chris. She's Anna. She's back.
I'm back.
I shaved just for her.
I appreciate that, even though we are several miles apart. It's still nice
you can see me.
That you made an effort, so I appreciate that. But yes, I am back. I did.
We could have like an ASMR, podcast.
Oh no, let's not go down that road.
Like my face is as smooth as a baby's bottom. You can hear it.
Okay. I'm sure all our listeners enjoyed that.
Well, not the bang on the microphone. That probably wasn't so hot.
No. But yes, I'm back. I did not abandon you. I came back. I thought about staying in New York, but I decided to come back.
Well, I mean, I do appreciate you rejoining me. I was much disappointed that Patrick could not talk below deck with me.
I know. I thought that's what he's good for, no?
Yeah, that's what I thought too, but apparently not. So what is PJ good for these days? In fact, when his wife had commented about Below Deck on Threads this past week, I had replied to her. I'm like, oh, I'm so disappointed in your husband. She's like, I know. He came and told me after he spoke to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I'm going to have to get you to watch Below Deck so then we can talk about that.
I really don't think that's going to happen. I'm sorry. Look, I think the last reality TV I watched was probably like Hockey Wives back in the day. That's how long ago.
Oh, that is a spell.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, who needs reality TV when the NHL is going through its own version of, reality programming right now? When PJ and I last spoke, so this is 2 weeks ago, this was going to be a sweep. And here we are, Anna, on the night before Game 7.
Yeah.
In the latest finishing Stanley Cup playoffs ever. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's pretty darn close. It's not. And the Oilers have in front of them the potential for a reverse sweep. Who'd have thunk it?
Certainly not me. I didn't think it was going to be a sweep. I think we all got a bit giddy with Florida going 3-0 up. But yeah, I certainly didn't think we'd be sitting here waiting for Game 7 to happen either. Yeah, it's disappointing. It's very disappointing. So yeah, let's hope by the time this goes out, or maybe a little after that, we have new Stanley Cup champions in the Florida Panthers.
Yeah. But there is Canucks news to talk about. We'll get to some thoughts about, the Stanley Cup playoffs, but there is Canucks news to talk about. There are some deals done, some deals not done, some rumors, all sorts of fun stuff. So we'll talk about that. And I don't know, things.
Off-season.
We always find
tangents.
Things to talk about. Yeah. Well, why don't we rewind and talk about the Canucks news? 2 weeks ago, I'd asked PJ, hey, there's three names here, Zadorov, Hronek, and Lindholm. Which of the three comes back? And I'm like, I get that Hronek has, an RFA side, so the Canucks have some leverage there. And he's like, yeah, they'll qualify him. He's like, that's the guy. Now, I don't know if PJ had bought into the idea that they would actually get him to a full deal as they have. But if you happen to have somehow not heard the news, Filip Hronek will be with the Vancouver Canucks potentially for 8 more years at $7.25 million per. Mm-hmm. Anna, thoughts?
I have quite a few thoughts. Yeah, like you said, I think a lot of Canucks fans thought that, Hronek had kind of priced himself out of Canucks reach It's been going round for a long time that any deal he signed would start with an 8. And in fact, it did. It's just that was the years, not the AAV. So yeah, very glad it doesn't start with an A. I really don't think the Canucks would have signed that. I really hope the Canucks would not have signed that. 8 is a long time. 7.25 is quite a lot of money, but it really, considering how Hronek started the year, considering how valuable he is to the Canucks, captain / best player, Quinn Hughes, could have been a lot worse. So I would say I still like it. It could be a great deal, but right now it's just looking like a decent deal. What do you think?
Well, so I'm apprehensive because of, the decade we went through of dark times, and anything with a whole lot of term on a player who hasn't had clear potential leading up to it gives me worry. Now, I maybe used the wrong word in potential because I think Hronek has a lot of potential, but we haven't seen a lot of that in the sort of time he's been here. And he has not endeared himself to some, I think some in the market based on his, friendship with J-Pat. And I'm again, apprehensive, just kind of a little PTSD here. But considering how he is, I think very clearly considered a first line paired defenseman. That's price you pay. The 7.25 as a number, I feel is actually very reasonable. I figured he would hit the market, he'd get 8. And I was thinking that's too rich for the Vancouver Canucks. Let's trade him. Let's find ways to maximize some potential here. So the 7.25, AAV is a reasonable number. 8's scary, but then he's not old, right? Like that's the other thing is
I know
he's only 26.
He does look quite grizzled, but I think it's just the beard and being European. Like, he's got some years left in him.
And whether this was by design or not, the Vancouver Canucks still have the ability to trade him. Like if things next season just ain't working or they want to go in an entirely different direction, they've now got, a pretty solid out in year one because his contract does not include any form of no movement clause in that first year. He gets an MC for the next 3 and then a modified NTC to, round it out. But year one, he's mobile.
Right. And, obviously that's not the plan. The plan is
no.
him and Quinn
things would have to go
together
so
forever and ever. Oh, man. But, yeah. I think things would have to go sideways. I think it's more likely that Canucks would try and finagle a deal later on in the term of his contract. But yeah, let's not go too far down that road. But the thing is, we've talked about it a lot. Can, Hronek operate his own pair away from Quinn Hughes, and does it matter? Those are really the questions that Canucks need to ask themselves. And I think they kind of figured that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. If Hronek makes Hughes better and Hughes makes Hronek better and the Canucks have a top tier number 1 blue line pair, fine. I still have some concerns about lines 2 and 3. Mm-hmm. Because
you mean Noah Juleson?
Yeah, I mean, you've tied up
That's all we got.
15 million with one line on your blue line. It doesn't leave a whole lot of room to then build through free agency. So you're right. Yeah, you got to rely on Noah Juleson. Mark Friedman, another contract.
Good for Mark.
For the money he's being paid, that's great. But I'm not entirely sure Mark Friedman is your, second pair defenseman.
I mean, is he a third pair defenseman? Yet to be proven, really. But he's good in the room. He's a good man in the storm, I think, is the best way to describe Mark Freeman. literally could not have a harder worker and a more cheerful person around the rink, by all accounts. But yeah, we basically got Carson Soucy. And yeah, Noah Jolson is a perfectly serviceable third pairing defenseman. But, like, yes, more needs to come. Do we have enough space for Zadorov? Sure. If we don't want to add any more forward depth. But I think we really do. Like, we need another scoring winger, realistically.
So I was talking to one of the guys here in the complex about it, and I had said this deal, it feels to me, is the Zadorov is going elsewhere contract. And I don't like that because, again, I want to Jim Benning Zadorov, give him all the money, sign him forever. I love the kid. But I don't see how the Canucks can give him the money he'll probably look to get on the market and what I would imagine, want, and still have room to fix some of their issues up top, as you had said. So,
right. And
I
think...
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say Dollywall, I think, was saying during the week that Canucks are looking to keep Zadorov plus add a name like Gensel, who we can get into shortly, but it does involve moving someone out. And whether they can get off a contract like Mikheyev, that's a big ask, I think.
Yeah. Well, on the Mikheyev front, the Vancouver Canucks have apparently given his agent the authority to go and work a trade. The fact that the Canucks haven't found a taker yet, not surprising. Mikheyev has not been lighting things up, and I don't think has done himself really any good service to facilitate a trade. From what I understand, he's not entirely happy with sort of the way things have gone in Vancouver, and while he might not be in a position where he wants out, he would be more than happy to go.
Yeah. I mean, it's an odd position, right? For Dan Milstein, he's like trying to facilitate a new deal for one of his clients, but that involves getting the other client out of there. Like, I guess that's just the way of being a sports agent, but it's just a weird position to be in, so.
Yeah. But okay, let's kick that can. Mikheyev gets traded. Does that give the Vancouver Canucks the flexibility to, hypothetically have a guy like Zadorov come back and in turn give them a couple of bucks that allow them to bring in a Jake Gensel? I don't know.
I do think
the
it's
Canucks have
tight, like
cap room.
Yeah, like Zadorov likes it here. He really does. It seems like his kids are happy here. His family's happy here. Great, he likes it. He will do what he can to stay, but he's not gonna be like take a cheapy deal to do so. Like, he wants to be rewarded for his play,
and he should be.
Yeah,
like if he goes to free agency, he will be paid. Like, he is gonna get a good deal. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Somewhat sort of lost in all of this, Tyler Myers apparently wants to come back, and he and the team have been talking.
I think
throughout. Now, Tyler Myers coming back at what is the big question? He's obviously coming back at a significant haircut.
Yes,
he does come back, but he's not coming back at Mark Friedman money.
No, and I think,
and so
yeah.
I think that plays into it as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think realistically, if you're signing Zadorov, you're looking to fill out the rest of your roster with, like, league minimum. Like, surely. You can't re-sign Zadorov, bring in a Jake Gensel, and sign some middling decor. Like, you have to be signing cheap people to fill out your roster, I think. And I do think, if we're getting to the stage where we have to choose, like, I pick Jake Gensel. Like, I pick someone of that caliber, of that scoring caliber, over Zadorov. And that's crappy to say, like, when he's a proven commodity with the team, but I think scoring's more important at this stage, especially with...
So
Yeah.
let's say you bring in a Jake Gensel. Right? Let's say that the Canucks make that happen, which, isn't guaranteed. But let's say they do. How much do you think he gets paid in Vancouver?
I mean, it starts with a 9 for sure.
So he's better than JT Miller?
Well, I mean, is he better than JT Miller? It's such a strange thing, because it's just like, JT Miller got a lot of money, I think, for the time he was signed. He got a lot of money in term, but, it's now 2024.
And inflation's a real female canine?
Quite so. I mean, like, I think we'll see if, like, Filip Hronek would have, like, that deal will look better once we see some of the numbers that defensemen are signing for, I think, in July. Like,
well, but Hronek for 7-2 is still less than Quinn, right?
Yeah.
Like, you think Quinn is your best defenseman. You're not signing someone else to supplant him.
Yeah.
Now, Petey, 11-6, that's your top,
but
forward.
Like, if JT can't handle being paid less than someone signed, like...
Well, I think JT wants to win, but, like, there was some scuttlebutt that in the postseason, JT had some thoughts over Petey.
Yeah.
And his deal. And his effort. And if, again, there is any truth to the rumor that Petey and JT don't see everything in the same wavelength.
I mean, like, we just know that's true.
Let's throw in Jake Gensel into the mix here at a $9 million contract. Granted, if Jake performs, JT would be happier than a pig in excrement. I'm trying to keep us, G-rated, because PJ, he took us.
I know.
Took us to the dark side.
Mouth like a sailor, that one.
I like how he says that. He's like, he curses, and he's like, "Oh, am I allowed to do that?"
It's like, well, you did.
Just did.
You did, so I guess you are.
Beeped it, but that requires work.
But yeah, JT Miller signed a 7-year deal, like, that took him beyond his 30th birthday. Like, to me, that's like, count your freaking lucky stars, JT. And, like, don't get me wrong, hell of a season, like, decent playoffs, JT is back. Like,
hopefully
the real
forever.
JT, please stand up, etc.
Yeah.
Giving Fs all over the place.
Yeah.
But, like, literally, I don't think he's that much of a baby that he can't handle being paid less than 2 people on his team. But we'll see.
Vancouver Canucks also signed a couple of 2-way deals with Cole McWard and Linus Karlsson.
Playoff MVP of one game, Linus Karlsson.
They're back for pennies, but
yeah, like
pennies is what the Canucks can afford, and they deserve the pennies they got.
And they're good depth players that I think will probably have a few games in Vancouver and help out at the bottom of the lineup as well.
Yeah. You and I are obviously not going to be here next week. Free agency and the draft will have occurred, and the Vancouver Canucks will have done stuff. I mean, come draft, I honestly don't know what the Vancouver Canucks are in a position to do. They don't have a lot of picks. They've got a total of 5 picks, 4 of which are their own. They don't have one in the first or second round. They don't have one in the 5th round. So the Vancouver Canucks are just getting players they hope work out at some point. Maybe kind of hope it.
In a weak draft as well, so.
Yeah.
Whatever. Just throw your hat in the ring, take some picks, make your choice, etc.
Yeah, but free agency is where the Vancouver Canucks may make a splash. I mean, the splash that I think everyone expects them to make is Jake Gunsel. To the extent that I have no clue how tampering ain't happening. And that's not a Canucks thing. Let me be very clear.
That's just the way the NHL works these days.
Yeah. Was it Matthias Olin signing in Tampa Bay before, the first 60 seconds had passed to free agency? It's interesting how quick you can come to a deal when you have not spoken at all.
Yeah, so weird.
The Vancouver Canucks currently need to fill in some spots up front. So current unrestricted free agents is in the forward line: Teddy Bluger, Dakota Joshua, Sam Lafferty, Elias Lindholm. The thought is Lindholm is gone. Dakota Joshua sounds like he's going to get paid. Probably not going to be in Vancouver. And that's not that Vancouver doesn't want him. It's just he's going to get paid elsewhere. Teddy Bluger is an interesting one. I haven't heard a whole lot. I would like to see him come back to Vancouver. But again, here's a player who probably did enough to ensure that he gets a small raise. Lafferty, sort of in a peace be with you. Just a guy.
Thanks, that was fun.
Yeah. On defense, we already talked about Zadorov and Myers, potential there. Ian Cole, also a free agent. But that right now leaves the Vancouver Canucks with a 5 defenseman blue line that are signed to NHL deals, 2 of which are Mark Friedman and Noah Juleson. So have to think the Vancouver Canucks do stuff there. In net, Thatcher Demko, he's got a deal for 1 season plus 1. Artus Silos, restricted free agent. Silos is going to get a deal from the Canucks, if anything, a qualifying offer. Casey DeSmith, though, UFA.
Yeah.
Do the Canucks go and find another journeyman backup, or do you think Silos is now going to back up Thatcher?
I think Silos has more than proved his worth. I think Canucks are happy with his body of work. Yeah, I think Silos is the guy.
Down on the Baby Nucks, Aiden McDonough, Sheldon Dries, Nick Cicek, Philip Johansson, Jet Wu, Matt Irwin, Zach Sawchenko, they're all in either unrestricted or restricted free agency. But again, that's more a depth thing. To me, you don't like players who you've invested development time into go away for nothing if you do let them depart. But then who in that list of players who, from a developmental perspective, you'd be like, oh man, I'm really upset that it didn't. They're gone. Like it's not as if the Vancouver Canucks have.
Jet Wu is probably the most disappointing one, and it's not a huge.
Is it
blow.
disappointing because he didn't turn out, or is it disappointing? Yeah, okay, that's And to
rather
me,
than
that
from
happens.
Yeah, it's like he didn't live up to the hype. It's a shame, but I do think Canucks, like we'd know by now, Sheldon Dries, purely from a sentimental / entertainment perspective, I think he's so fun to watch. Huh?
He's old.
He's old. Don't get me wrong. I will be sad to see him go.
Matt Irwin, 36. He's older.
Oh yeah, and everyone loves Matt Irwin. He seems to have had a really good effect on the locker room in terms of showing those young guys how to be pros. So I think that was important, but I'm not.
Maybe Matt Irwin, can find a place on Manny Malhotra's staff.
Honestly, I wouldn't be too shocked if something like that happened. He seems like a really good pro, but not so much seeing a ton on the ice. I think Tolopilo, the goalie's already signed to another year, so I think he should be our starter in Abbotsford.
Yeah, he's got 1 year left, and then he's an RFA year.
And he was pretty exciting near the end of the season / into the playoffs, so I'm not too worried
and then, other sort of things that are at play. So Tucker Pullman's contract still remains on the books for 1 more season. And then the Vancouver Canucks have OEL money tied up until forever.
Conn Smythe winner, OEL, do you mean?
Mm-hmm, totally. Well, not anymore, but...
Hey, if he scores a hat trick tomorrow, Monday, give him that Conn Smythe, I don't care.
Sure. Why not? No problem. Watch there be bonuses triggered in his deal that we don't know of that somehow come back to haunt the Canucks buyout wise or something.
Yeah.
Oh, anywho, we'll be able to recap all of that fun stuff in 2 weeks' time when we're back. Yes, we are not going to be back until after all of this has happened and happened well off. But them's the way the calendar bounces. It's not breaking. You can't really break the calendar. And yet we'll take a short break. You listen to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Anna and Chris.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? And that because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He's going to get a lot of power play time. And yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
So the Florida Panthers got themselves a good start, right?
Yeah.
Is that 3-0 ain't too shabby. But something went wrong in Game 4.
Yes.
And has continued to ail the Panthers in Games 5 and 6. I have a theory. I have one very, very broad theory. If there's a person who has received plaudits for their play, but also some foul-mouthed, or not foul-mouthed, but frowned and a foul distaste of the opposition, it's Bobrovsky.
Sure.
Coaches, other players complain he's been getting calls, and he has been by far the standout. You could argue Florida's MVP. I think Game 4 broke him. I think something happened to his confidence in Game 4. And now that Florida no longer has that confident goaltender in net, it's starting to percolate throughout the rest of the team, putting pressure on them and in turn sapping their confidence. Compounding this is watching Edmonton with all the momentum, having their way with things and getting calls, specifically an offside call in Game 6. But it reminds me of how in the 2011 playoffs, and I've talked about this ad nauseum, Roberto Luongo was required to get a shutout for the Vancouver Canucks to get wins in that series. Like, people are like, oh, it's all Luongo's fault. The dude, if he didn't get a shutout, the Canucks lost. It was plain and simple. But one thing I'm willing to concede is that when a goal went past Luongo, the team seemed to like, oh, well, not because of Luongo, but because of their belief that maybe they couldn't score a goal themselves. And then that cascaded into Luongo giving up 1 million. I kind of wonder if Florida's feeling that same thing.
I mean, like, mindset is huge, and a confident goalie can do wonders for that. Like, please see Canucks in round 1. You're not wrong about calls, either. Like, McDavid and Draisaitl have definitely been using their star power for evil. That offside call too, I don't think it was necessarily the wrong call. It was just so close that it just reminded you how lame that system is. But yeah, Florida just looked broken as a team. They look completely shattered self-confidence-wise. And you can blame travel if you want, but
both teams are traveling.
Yeah, both teams are traveling. And Edmonton look exhausted, but they look that kind of happy exhausted at the end of every game. Like, it's a real shame because, like, Bobrovsky just, like, was so good in Game 1. And, yeah, like, Florida was so dominant at the start of the series. I think even Game 3 that is 4-3, like, on the score sheet, I think Florida was just, like, so much better in that game as well. Yeah. And then it's just flipped.
And I don't want to hang this all on Bobrovsky. Like, Game 4 wasn't entirely on him. Edmonton's back were against the wall, and they were going to do everything. Like, everyone who was anyone knew that. So many people were like, oh, it's going to be a sweep. It's going to be a sweep. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like, I'm not getting those vibes
those
at
are
all.
So rare, especially in a Stanley Cup final. Like, especially, without travel.
But I would have never said reverse sweep. Like, when Edmonton won Game 4, okay. I'm like, I wouldn't want to be playing in Game 5 because I think Edmonton's going to take that momentum. But I actually had in my mind that Florida could win it in Edmonton in Game 6. I thought they could turn it around. Me
too.
They came somewhat close, but the problem was spotting Edmonton a head start is never a good idea. Case in point, ask the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah. I mean, right? Like, Game 7, Canucks were, like, if there was an extra period to that game, maybe Canucks would have won, but that's not...
An extra 5 minutes.
Yeah. Like, that's not how hockey works. And I think this morning, or talking about Sunday, like, Bobrovsky didn't skate. Like, is that worrying? I don't know. It certainly keeps the rumors swelling. Like, the stage is set, really, for Bobrovsky to have a huge game on Monday, or for, like, Edmonton to hammer the final nail in his coffin, but it certainly puts a dent in his... Yeah. It is funny, right? Because Bobrovsky was kind of seen as past it a couple of years ago. We thought, this is one of the worst contracts in hockey, right? And then he's been so good this year, and then Florida has been so good, and he's been a huge part of that, and then in the playoffs, he's been great. If he can close it out, I think that's huge, but it really does take some shine off his star if he collapses under the pressure like that. Especially, like, has Stuart Skinner been better than he was at the beginning of the playoffs? Sure. But, like, he's still Stuart
Skinner.
Yeah.
Like... I like how you're on the same wavelength as me.
Yeah.
From me to you.
Totally. And
who knows? I mean, who do you think wins Game 7? Not who do you want.
I know.
Who do you think?
Who do I want is a very, very easy answer. I think it's Edmonton.
So who do you think?
I think it's Edmonton, and it makes me feel so gross.
I agree.
But Florida just looks shell-shocked. Hate to use that term because that overblows it,
agree.
But yeah.
I think it's Edmonton. I was talking to some coworkers, and they're like, "You're not cheering for Canada's team." I'm like, I'm not. I cheer for the Vancouver Canucks. Like, I don't then change my allegiance and support someone else. Like, when people are like, "Oh, you watching the playoffs?" No, hockey's still on. Like, to me, Canucks are out. It's over. But when I look at, the sort of way things are, if you force me to choose, I choose Florida, not because I hate Edmonton. It actually has more to do with the fact that I kind of have no feelings for Florida, but they got Luongo, and I wouldn't mind him having some success, Anyhow, Edmonton, I think, are in the position to win. Like, they're coming in as the underdog because, again, they've had to go and do the near impossible to get to where they are, and to win it, it's almost impossible, proven possible if they do. Mm-hmm. Florida is considered the better team of the two based on statistics. So for Edmonton, they lose. They tried. For Florida to lose, choke, right?
Yeah.
Not a good feeling.
Yeah. And it's a huge shame, but yeah.
Is what it is.
It is what it is.
So I was quickly scanning through, like, when was the sort of latest Stanley Cup final? And this isn't it. There's been later by a few days. Obviously, if we go across the spectrum, especially in the recent historic times, the pandemic kind of messed up with the schedule.
Times.
But, you know, it feels weird that we're still watching hockey after summer has started.
Officially, yes.
Yes.
It decided on Friday, which was also Indigenous Peoples Day. So, to all those who celebrate. Yeah, it's bizarre. Like, obviously, my mind has been taken up with the Cricket World Cup, along with a billion other people, probably close to 2 billion other people. I know that market probably doesn't overlap much with the hockey market. There's not that many much overlap there. But, like, the Euros are going on right now. Football is the most watched sport around the world. Like, all the NFL audience, all the basketball audience, if they're picking up a second sport, it's not going to be hockey, unless it's, like, the only thing on. Yeah, it's just, like, it feels like we've lost a lot of the momentum. Like, obviously I'm not trying to be like, please like my sport, random people, but, yeah, I'm tired of it, like...
I again, haven't been watching for the past month, so... Really, hockey ended well before the summer for me. But I do feel many of the points you raised are very salient. Like, the NHL has a problem at the start of the season because competing with the tail end of baseball and the World Series, then it has to compete against the National Football League until about February. And then all they have is really NBA till Major League Baseball starts up. I mean, NASCAR, I guess, is sort of a thing. Like, you know, when you start talking about sort of top tier televised sports in the United States, they're now having to compete against, as you said, other international events that take place in a period of time that hockey should not be played. So it is a myth. I also feel that the season just feels like it just goes on and on and on.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, we talk about it a lot, like, hockey kind of holds it up as a badge of pride that is hardest trophy to win in sports, which, yeah, I agree with. But, like, it is so freaking long already, especially with, if you end up having long series, as can happen, and put a lot of them in a row, just, like, it feels like the NHL is further, like, shooting itself in the foot by stretching out all the scheduling.
Yeah. But, you know, other things that come into play. So the NHL entry draft is taking place on Friday, June 28th and Saturday, June 29th. The NHL awards are on Thursday, June 27th. So they'll have awarded a Stanley Cup 2 days before the awards, 3 days before the draft, and 1 week before free agency. That seems weird.
Yeah. Very. Like, usually we get a little bit of downtime, no?
Yeah, it feels like we would, but no. Like last year, it was like middle of June. A few seasons previous, it was middle of June. So middle of June seems to be the latest in my mind, but what do I know? What do you know? We're just podcasters.
Yeah. Clearly not a lot, but
yeah.
These are our 2 cents.
Yeah. NHL entry draft at the Sphere.
Honestly,
it's an interesting approach.
The Sphere, to me, every time someone says it, I'm imagining some, like, sci-fi dystopian thing where, you know, what's that novel where they just have to, like, they have to keep running until someone, like, passes out from exhaustion and dies? Sorry to get dark. Is it they shoot horses, don't they? Maybe. Anyway. The Sphere sounds dystopian, and it's in Vegas, so yes. Checks out.
It's a unique setup, because, like, the way the Sphere is constructed, not that I've been in there, so maybe I should concede that I don't know what I'm talking about, but I've seen pictures, and I've heard others describe it. it doesn't seem conducive to have all of the teams set up with their tables and then all of the potential draft picks and their families all sort of there. Like, it's not designed for that. Unless the teams are all sitting beside each other in the first few rows and all the players now are behind them. Like, that part I don't get. Or is it that they have like a third area where everyone is and the players in the showcase are happening in the sphere?
Holding.
Like a holding pen. The NHL looked at what they were able to do with the defunct Arizona Coyotes at Mullet Arena and having like temporary dressing rooms and have temporary draft table boxes or something outside. I don't know.
Quick sidebar on the Arizona Coyotes. I don't know if you saw it the other day, but yes.
Was cancelled.
Land auction was cancelled. It was pointed out that the Arizona Coyotes were not prepared in any way. Did not have much of the they didn't have a zoning lawyer. I think there was some other documentation they were missing. Like,
seriously, Buddy just needs to walk away with his $2 billion and call it a day.
Yeah, it's a gong show. Like surely you're embarrassed enough. Like, as it is. The phrase, "Have you no decency, sir?" springs to mind.
A little bit off the rails, but somewhat related to the defunct Arizona Coyotes, Utah Hockey Club. So people are sort of trying to dunk on this. I actually understand what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Selling to lots of merch.
Well, yes, there's that, but also think in the timeline of going from holy crap, we've got a franchise to puck drops now. They, from the sounds of things, got things going real quick once it became apparent that the Coyotes needed a buyer. So the Utah Hockey Club, I feel, going that route, giving you more time to properly market and build it up to something, makes sense. 2, merch.
Yeah, okay, but like, much like the Arizona Coyotes at the land auction, I ain't buying it. Like, they've had...
Why would you buy that merch?
No, but...
Someone will.
I ain't buying that, like, reasoning. I'm sorry, but it's like the PWHL. It may have happened very quickly. They had been planning it for a long time. Like... Well,
they could have easily not read
had that in line.
The ownership group in Utah... I mean, they wanted an NHL franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they had made it known, but I have not read that they had the means to plan and prepare until suddenly, holy smokes, you mean we could do this and we could do this today?
Yeah, but like, what's stopping them? What was stopping them? Like, previous to, like, what was stopping
together a team name?
Yeah.
Well, so they initially pitched the NHL as being an expansion franchise.
Yes.
Like, that's what they had wanted.
Yes.
The NHL has, from what I understand, some rules as to how prepared you can be so that the presumption of whatever is not granted. Like, so I'm not cutting them significant slack. Let's be honest. Going with the Utah HC and double dipping on the merch.
I don't find it like horrible. I think Utah Hockey Club is actually a fun name, and I think getting the right name is important. But like, I don't know.
Part of me wonders if they run with that. Like, if it works and they suddenly see people buy into it.
Oh, but like, I mean, a new market is definitely more fun than the old guard. But like, remember how fun Washington Football Club was for a season, and then the NFL was like, no, actually, we're going to be called the Commando. It's like, let's replace a really horribly offensive racist name with a militaristic, awful, like...
Well, the Commanders, not Commando, but Commanders.
Yeah, same diff.
And the connection is the person that resides in the house that Canada burnt down.
Yeah, I did hear...
The British kind of helped us, but whatever.
I did hear that...
in the War of 1812, and the White House burned, and we're the ones that did it.
I did hear that because England played the USA this morning in the Cricket World Cup, and they said that the winners would get to burn down the White House for a second time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm presuming that's not on U.S. broadcast TV, because in the current geopolitical climate.
Yeah. But England did win, so by quite a lot. So I don't know if that means they get to burn it down twice or...
Oh, well.
They'll figure it out.
Utah Hockey Club, that's a thing. Back to the entry draft, being at the Sphere. I do like how the NHL is trying to be a little bit different. They're not the first to go and do different things. Like the NFL has gone to Vegas and had a draft on the Bellagio water, whatever.
Honestly, I think everyone...
Is it Bellagio Lakes or what
Fountains?
is it?
What is... I don't...
Fountains, yeah.
I will say that I feel like everyone during the pandemic realized that the draft was really boring. And yeah, I don't know if it holds that much interest to me this year for sure. Like, waiting.
The NFL this year had the draft outside in Detroit. Like, it was like almost an outdoor draft.
I mean, like, they need to do something. Celebrities? I don't know.
Well, they had Marshall Mathers at the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Eminem.
Who, like, what celebrities does hockey have? Michael Bublé?
Well, they actually have a handful of celebrities who do buy into the hockey.
Will Ferrell?
Yeah. I'd have to go and look at one of the, whatever celebrity ice hockey games is to
Yeah,
see
I feel like
JJ
JJ Watt's really into hockey, but I don't know if he's otherwise occupied, but...
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anywho, it's
we'll
happening.
See. I think July 1st may be more interesting for us.
Yeah, I'm going to tune into the draft just to see what it looks like in the Sphere, and I'm going to turn it off because Canucks ain't drafting in the first round. And the moment I do that, they're going to be like some crazy deal
trade
between Alvin and Rutherford in the world or something. Free agency, I'm going to be in the United States, hopefully.
Have Canada Day. I respect it.
Yeah. My parents' 50th wedding anniversary is essentially the long weekend, and as a family and extended family, we're all going down to the United States. Hopefully. I say hopefully because my wife is currently in passport hell.
Ugh.
Long story, a little bit shorter. My daughter and I, our passports expired last year. We just hadn't gotten around to renew it because, like, who's traveling across borders these days? Well, Anna is, but not Chris. My wife's passport was going to expire in the fall. Now, as is sort of the common understanding, you must have 6 months runway on a passport to travel, and that could be a problem if you don't, which seems weird.
It is weird, and it really depends where you're going.
Yeah. But out of sort of convenience, we decided to send off the renewal for me, the application for my daughter, because kids can't renew, and my wife's renewal all at the same time. Sent it off at the start of May by mail. Online, said that shouldn't be an issue. Talking to people, mail seems to be working real fast. Cool. So we send it in, and a couple days later, both my wife and I have numbers saying that ours are in processing. We've seen the payment go on our credit cards. Okay, cool. A week later, my daughter's gets returned to us because my wife forgot to include the birth certificate. So I'm panicking. Oh my God, my daughter won't have a passport. So we send it back in with the birth certificate. I then get a number, it's processing and charged in the credit card. Okay, so they're all in flight. End of May, my passport shows up. A week later, my daughter's shows up. As we are recording, my wife's passport is stuck in processing. It has been stuck in processing for close to 2 months now. Like we're not at the 2-month mark, but we're getting there. The standard as to which that passport should have been processed has already been exceeded, which means my wife would be getting a slight refund because Canada now has standards they held themselves accountable to, apparently. But the weird part about this is my wife has since called in twice. Like, is there anything going on? Like, need my passport? We put it here. The first time she called was at the start of June. They're like, oh yeah, no problem. You'll have it before the end of June. And if you don't, just call us back. She calls back last week and they're like, oh yeah, there's no reason why it shouldn't be taking so long, but nothing we can do to help you on the phone. because we can't do that. You got to go into an office. So if you don't have it by, or haven't heard from us by Wednesday, June 26th, go into the office. So she's going to go into the office on Wednesday.
That is unfortunate.
Our trip is on the 29th.
Okay. Well, thoughts and prayers.
Mm-hmm.
I have dealt with Canadian immigration and its bureaucracy quite a bit, and plan on doing so pretty soon when I apply for my citizenship. But yes, I'm well aware of it. It's BS. So hopefully that gets sorted soon.
Yeah, as do I, because if we go to the border without a passport in our hands, it'll be interesting to see as to how that all works out. The fail-safe is my wife actually has a U.S. birth certificate.
Oh.
My mother-in-law is an American citizen. She is actually only a permanent resident of Canada. She's never actually applied for a citizenship here. But when Marnie was born, she got her both.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Marnie has held a U.S. passport when she was a kid as well, but does not have a U.S. passport in modern days. So our thought is, if she doesn't have a passport, take all those birth certificates, Canadian one or U.S. one, to the border, plead the case, hope for the best. Because
she's a U.S. citizen, right? So,
but
nothing
the
to prove
United
it
States
with.
government states an adult, a U.S. citizen, must show up with a passport.
Right.
For
Yes, I'm aware. I've also dealt with U.S. border control quite a bit, and
who knows? Maybe you'll be recording the show on your own in 2 weeks' time because the Golden family is in places unknown.
Well, to add a bit of a lighter spin on U.S. border guards, when I went through U.S. customs on the way to New York for the Cricket World Cup, the agent asked me, complete straight face, if I was participating in the Cricket World Cup or watching. I mean, not that he was aware that it was a men's World Cup, but I appreciated the thought that I could be an elite athlete representing my country.
You're an elite athlete in my books, Anna.
Thanks.
So here we are, end of a show, almost an hour, a little bit shorter than when PJ and I talked about a whole lot of not much. I think I was so thrown by him not watching Below Deck.
Also, he insulted netball, so he's on my ass list.
We will be back, as I have said a few times, in a couple of weeks. So, what would that be? July 6th, I think. If memory serves me correct. Doing the math in my head without looking at the calendar.
I think it's
so it would be July 1 is the 1st. So I guess 8th. Yeah, 7th as we record. Yeah. Okay. So you're right. I'm wrong.
As always.
Let's talk all about free agency and the draft and the awards and all that fun stuff then. In the meantime, if you want to join in the conversation and harass Anna and I, you can join Discord, discord.io/C4 podcast, join Gate 16, have the conversation there. Or alternatively, you can track down the podcast on social media. We're at the C4 podcast, except on Threads. We're at the Real C4 podcast. And if you'd like to throw a couple of bucks our way because you've decided that maybe I need bail money to get out of the immigration clink in the United States, you can support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/C4 podcast, which as Buy Me a Coffee is known as here.
Buy me a pint.
And you can commit a couple of bucks, either as an individual sort of donation, or you can commit to us on a monthly or annual basis. And in doing so, annually gets you one of the exclusive C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast stickers, which are few and far between in North America, but due to the buttload that Anna took to the UK, are prolific over there.
It's a new form of currency in the UK because the pound is failing.
Hey, I guess there'll be a new government in UK.
Yes,
on Canada
hoping
Day,
so.
Right?
Hoping so. Well, yes. So July 4th is the
Independence Day
election.
I knew it was either the 1st or the 4th, and I guessed 1st for Canadian reasons.
Yeah, it is a random day. since I am not yet a Canadian citizen, I will be voting in the UK election.
So when you vote, do you get a physical ballot, or are you able to vote virtually?
So I vote by proxy. My proxy is my dad, much to his chagrin.
So do you have to fill in paperwork? Does he have to physically take the paperwork in? Or?
Basically, I just have to renew it every so often.
And he can just go in.
And then he just goes in and he has 2 votes.
Okay. Are you forcing your dad to vote for someone he would otherwise not like to put a check mark against?
That would be correct. But he's a very upstanding, guy. He is a rule follower, so he will...
No, I'm not...
He will always vote for whoever I tell him to, whether he wants to or not.
I get the feel. I understand that. I mean, my family, generally, we collectively have voted very similar. I think I've been the only outlier due to sort of political allegiances being somewhat variable. Not to suggest I vote on a particular side of the spectrum.
Yeah, we're getting... yeah, just saying, if my mom was still my proxy, I would feel maybe a bit better about it, but due to some...
stuff.
BS in the way that election laws work in the UK. She's no longer my proxy. So, yes.
So it's your dad.
It's my dad. And it's... something like 3 out of the last 4 elections, it's been a swing constituency. So it's pretty important.
Ooh. Cool. Well, thank you, Anna's dad, for doing Anna's civic duty and casting a ballot. And hi, Anna's mom.
Yeah. Hi, Mom.
Any final words of wisdom there, Anna?
F the Tories. And F the Edmonton Oilers. I don't care anymore,
I would have never expected you to vote for the Tories. So that doesn't shock me. Nor do I think you would cheer for the Oilers. So I'm equally not shocked.
Yeah.
If you are a citizen of the United Kingdom who has the ability to cast a ballot, or alternatively a citizen of somewhere that has the ability to cast a ballot, because there's a whole lot of elections happening in the next, while, cast your ballot. If you are at that stage where if you were to say, well, I don't want to vote for anyone, go in, cast your ballot, and spoil the hell out of it.
Do something.
Because
participate.
It's the participation in the casting of your ballot that's most important. If you think by not casting your ballot, you're actually speaking loudly, you're not. You're forfeiting your voice. So again, go in and vote. And if you don't like who you want to vote for, spoil the ballot. Vote for yourself. Write in your name. Count Binface could use another vote. Binford? I don't know. It was the guy who beat the other...
I think it was Binface. I know exactly who you mean anyway.
So, on behalf of Anna, A4603, myself, Chris at Lightforce, I'm going to sign off this episode of the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast with We Out.